Now, a couple of firsts tonight. First of all, I'm going to do it sitting down, and then I'm going to read it. Just one or two words of explanation for the first one. The man in charge of, I always get this word wrong, oncology, the chemotherapy inside Limerick Hospital is an Indian man, Professor Gupta, here an international reputation. And incidentally, the Cancer Centre in Limerick is second to none thanks to J.P. McManus and what private funding he put into it. And it takes an exceptional man to sit down before maybe 10 people a day and tell 8 out of those 10 that their lives are over, and do it with compassion and do it with feeling. It's easy to do it with arrogance. It's different to do it with that. And somebody like him, somewhere along the line, become what Abraham Maslow referred to as self-actualized, as realized beings, and going back to what Park was saying today about Buddha and his early life. The other two explanations for this, Con Murphy was a neighbour of my grandparents' generation back at home, and he was the first man executed by firing squad after the Easter Rising in Cork Jail. And the second reference, when Connolly's wife came in, she was told on the way he was about to be executed in an hour and a half, and she broke down, and he chided her, "Lily, don't unman me now." And she said, "James, your life, your beautiful life." And he said, "Wasn't it a fine life, Lily?" And that's part of Republican lore and passed down inside Republican generations. Slight man with a big presence, ancestral skin browned by Indian sun, firmly, yet radiating compassion, quietly doing all that had to be done, patiently drawing from chart and notes, wheel procedures, the how and the why, until last information calmly imparted, the silent conclusion that I would die. My mind flew to Con Murphy in Cork Jail, to Mountjoy morning call and Rory, Dick and Joe, when they too were told this terrible finality, death awaited, earth life over, time to go. They had but precious hours to last exit. I had months, perhaps a year to prepare, firstly in Irna, the way through, with meditation, reflection and prayer. I watched my darling's face go pale, tear stinging, yet in her mind's eye, Connolly's, do not unman me, Lily, here for now, she also will not cry. Last notes checked, in papers ignored, Professor turned and faced us fully to engage. Behind him, in my now closed medical file, my earth life terminating in a scribbled page.
Glenn Donald.
Now, I've always been told, and I've always heard, that if something like this happened to you, it's great to have friends around, and you'll find out who your friends are, and you'll soon know who your true friends are. I do, because I spend all my bloody time consoling them instead of they consoling me.
Thank God.
My new walking stick. Hey old man, pop yourself on. Lose that bloody walking stick. You're 6 miles out of hospital. You're 6 weeks out of hospital. Stop acting like you're still sick. By now it's an accustomed thing, handle fitting snugly to my hand. A third propelling leg when walking, I needed support as I rest or stand. To my friend, a constant reminder of my body's new, unusual frailty. The writing on the wall writ large, of this now slowly coming inevitability, that in less than 1 full year my remains may lie under sward. Hopefully I will have died easy. He left behind will grieve hard.
Oh, God.
These are, Tom told me was that I'd have a bit of time to fill in. I just pulled up some of these at random. In the Bardic tradition, there's all these special places around the country that we know and that are passed on. They're pilgrimage routes that were known to the travellers and the poets, and they're very special church ruins because these church ruins and some active churches were built in what are known as bow pines, earth energy pines. And they come, if you know the vibrations of it, they come alive. In this room, this is for such a place up in Connemara. In this room church, easy to find words to say. Eyes lifting outwards over narrow inlet bay, to boxed in little fields with cattle brown and white, and over mountain shoulder, kissed by soft diffused light. Sheep strung rosary light across the brown sloped heat, swinging glances downwards to silvered waters beneath, gently rippling small waves, free, again diagonaling the bay, in a silent song of creation. Here, even thoughts must pray. Lost Ireland. We're coming up in 1914, well, those that will be around for it, of the anniversary of the First World War. And we still haven't come to terms in this country, and indeed in England and Europe, with the carnage and the loss of life that happened in that war. And of course all the Southern men signed up for it, and their sons and the coming generation were wiped out completely. And these were, a lot of these people had been involved in the Celtic revival. They were part of the New Ireland. They helped put the ethos there for the IRB, without which the Easter Rising would not have taken place. And yet these were a lost generation. There's a place up in Fermanagh, for instance, that in Lough Erne, where they put 42 boats away when the men went to war. And it's only in the last couple of years those boats have been pulled out again and renovated and a boating club put together. It took almost 100 years to fill what was lost in that generation wiped out in the morning in the Somme. One of those who died was Lady Gregory's son. He was an airman in the First World War, and I lost 2 cousins, Sheehan cousins. They were young lieutenants in the forerunner of the RAF. They were army, they joined the army, and as part of the army they went up in planes spotting for artillery and spotting for troop movements, and these spotter planes were prime targets, and all the fire from the ground was directed at them when they flew over, and it was virtually a suicide mission. 7 missions were all they survived, and yet they volunteered and they went up. Lady Gregory's son. Was he composed as in his picture? Probably so. Wheeling, turning, soaring aloof above apart from the war surging below. The same detached game with all of their station did what class required the militia, officer, magistrate, dealing death, transportation, or whatever ready law as Dublin Castle decreed, to hold down the natives, they, the thin controlling line, dignified as duty the need of a colonial regime that even killed their own. Edward Emmett Tone, as the flower of Orange Ulster in the carnage fields over, where he circled isolated alone. Did he ponder these things? Any doubts as he met his death, like others for quarrels not theirs, perhaps, but now lost utterly, beyond recall, even prayers, and we are the poorer yet. Lady from Clare, from the end of the 70s to the end of the 90s, I was in and out of England quite a lot, and took part in wherever there was music sessions over there. The weekend I was over, I usually took part in 2 or 3 poetry things in and out between the music. And you get these things ever so often that people are doing all right and their life's over, but suddenly something gel and they're exiles, they're in a foreign land and time is suspended. This is one such time. There was a general session going on in the Stakes Head, and a girl from Clare started to play something, everyone dropped off. You'd hear a pin drop inside the pub, and even outside down in the canal, until there was about 150 people listening to her, and all their thoughts back at home. The music of Clare is flowing like her hair, it ripples out gentle and low. The session delayed, they leave up to play to her magic of fiddle and bow. A smile in her lips, she closes her eyes. Her face is beauty serene. Her thoughts are on hills among mountain and wells, to the place she has wandered and been. High over Doolin the seagulls are flying, and the waves are washing the strand. The heather in bloom invites lovers to stay, as they roam by the cliffs hand in hand. In a sheer out on in a sheer there's a boat in the sea, and the skylarks have taken to wing. The magic is near, she brings it all here, with the torch of her bow skills and string. The song fades away, yet no one will play, while the echoes are lingering still. When the session once more drives on through the door, as they course through jigs with a will. The exiles stand round, their thoughts in home ground, their spirits are rambling elsewhere, by burn and breeze and the bright Irish seas, like the soul of that lady from Clare. I'd say, Christy, you could relate to that one.
Give her Clare one easier.
One of the greatest masters and teachers that walked the earth for helping people. He still had problems that even when he sorted them out, as he quoted himself in one passage of the Gospels, that they returned for their past even as the dog to its own vomit. That man didn't put his words sometimes. This Garden, and it's sort of special friend, who was, again, Tom can relate to this, drug addict and problem with drugs. This garden has been killed, too many weeds unpulled, have grown blossomed by the weekday hour, choking out herb flower until all that was revealed, even the very paths, they too were concealed. Once the gardener came, one with loving care, intuitively separating stem from stem, intuitively finding what was there, pruning quick, pulling slow, knowing it seems all there was to know. He left the garden clean, where flowers could grow. Beneath these long weeds the same flowers remain, longing for the kiss of the sun, the gentle caress of rain. The pathways still run there, straight to the centre fountain, above the same wooded hills and cold clear mountain. Yes, a garden of gardens, one fit for a dark queen. The gardener had other gardens, where have you been? God rest her. We had a digress moment in this, and I can't name names because a woman is dead. Legal aid in this country was a complete, total and absolute shambles. And when separation started to come in and fast in the late 80s, early 90s, men were the culprits 80% of the time, but because men were networked, they got legal aid 90% of the time. And the women had to go into court without legal representation. The chairman of legal aid resigned, several people connected with it, and with the whole legal aid system, nobody would do anything about it. Pat and myself took on the case of a woman who left school at 14 who was barely literate. Very badly wrong woman, put a case together and challenged the constitutionality of the legal aid board and what they were doing. We won. The government had to open up 17 new legal aid centres and spend £10 million. And we got 4 bloody months of unadulterated harassment from the special branch, directed by a pissed off Minister for Finance and an equally pissed off Minister for Justice, over having to set up the centres and find the finance for it. And this woman was a great character, and nothing would get her down. First time she was in court, she had been separated for years. Her husband was with another woman, had even children with the other woman. She got compensated from a road traffic accident, turned her house into a little palace, spent 20,000 in a corporation house, and when she had the last bit of work done, her husband moved in, took over, created a scene where he could get her banned, and he did get her banned. And when the case came up in the district court, the judge wasn't wearing it. She was on her own. He had legal representation. And he said to her, Mrs. Forrest, my problem here, he said, is you have threatened violence against your husband. So unless I put some bit of an injunction on you, he said, I have a responsibility for what may happen here. He said, will you, he said, is he under threat of violence from you if I release you from this court? Threat of violence is shaped in the best of this time.